Need a winter holiday escape? Forget your cares in Fiji. White sand beaches and scuba diving are calling. Your tropical paradise getaway is just one nonstop Fiji Airways flight away. With round-trip fares starting at $899 from LAX or SFO. Or check out great fares to Australia and New Zealand with seamless connections via Fiji. Book now at FijiAirways.com. From here to happiness, flying direct with Fiji Airways.
Trying to find your happiness this winter? Let Fiji Airways fly you there direct. Whether you're sunbathing or snorkeling, dining or dreaming, you'll experience legendary Fijian hospitality. Expect the warmest of welcomes in this Pacific paradise. Unplug, unwind, and relax in your happy place, Fiji. Get great deals on direct flights to happiness at FijiAirways.com. That's FijiAirways.com. You deserve this. Go from here to happiness, flying direct with Fiji Airways.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Listen Up Livingston. It's a Local Leaders of Podcast production. And now, if you're from Livingston Parish, then the guy sitting across from me is certainly recognizable to you. He's currently in his 17th year of public service, the current state rep for District 71, and a candidate for District 13 state Senate seat. So with that, I first want to say welcome, Buddy Mincey Jr. to Local Leaders of the Podcast.
Good morning. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're excited to talk to you, and we got a lot we want to cover. You've been a busy guy. Look, when I research, and I got, y'all can't see this probably, but I got a phone book in front of me of the stuff I've kept track of. You certainly got some work ethic going, of course, throughout your entire life, I would say, and we're going to try to cover the majority of that. But before we do, I want to acknowledge a few things. First, you do something I wish a lot more public officials would do, and that is you don't shy away from using social media to get out your message. As a matter of fact, when I was researching, your Facebook's amazing.
Thank you.
You very active with it. You keep people informed. I think that's very important. So whoever, I'm sure you do a lot of that, but great job there. Folks, I'm telling you, go to Buddy Mincey Jr.'s Facebook page, give it a like, and you will stay informed if you are in Livingston Parish. It's one of the most active ones you'll find out there. So you also keep people informed from a podcast. As a matter of fact, you're almost a professional podcaster, I would say by now. You've really done a good job of communicating. Mm-hmm. It's an important thing in public service.
It is.
And McHugh David, who runs the Livingston Parish News, you do podcasts with him both before and after legislative sessions. Something extremely important. Look, today in this society, people are running all over the place, and that's where they're getting their information. So it's great when public officials do that. I want to thank you for that. I think that's one of the most important things you can do. So we're going to get into, there was an old show, y'all. This Is Your Life is what it was called. if you're old people like me and Buddy, and on that show, they would kind of take you through a little journey of people and their life. And we're going to do a little bit of that today. And before we do, I do want to mention this. You just completed a 3-part series with McHugh.
Did.
Part 1 was a legislative wrap-up. Part 2 was road and infrastructure. And Part 3 was the Amite River Basin Commission. Definitely go check those out, folks. And what we're going to do for you is we're going to link those in the show notes and description of this video, mm-hmm. so that people can check that out. Because this one's going to be a little different, and then it's going to let people know a little bit more about you behind the scenes of what you do with public service as well. So let's talk Buddy Mincey Jr. And I guess the best place to start would be your history with the parish. You've been here a little while.
Yeah, I have. And before I'd say that, let me just say this on the communication. One thing that I've noticed is I think historically there's a little bit of a disconnect between the Capitol and back home.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important for people to know the efforts that as a legislator that I'm doing. So, after every session, I usually try to do something before session to talk about the things that we're fixing to work on.
Yep.
And I try to do something after session to give a legislative update. And then I'll probably travel and I try to go to as many civic organizations as I can to let them know what I'm working on. That I think it's important, and we're going to if we talk about infrastructure or anything, people are frustrated living here. We got a great place to live. We got a great school system. Our quality of life brings them in, but the quality of life is compromised by the traffic and those types of things. And people just get frustrated. Yeah. And I think they're frustrated because they sit back and they think nothing's being done. So I think it's my job to try to let people know all the things that are being done. So it kind of gives them a little bit of confidence. We're working in a direction. So we do that. And I do all my Facebook stuff.
Do you really?
I do everything that's on there.
I got a job for you.
Yeah.
Whole legislating thing.
Yeah, well, and look, it's a lot of people use Facebook for different things. A lot of them have their agenda, they exercise their agenda, and a lot of them use it to be negative. And I try to be positive at all times, unless I'm correcting a record on something. And I think it's just another thing of just letting people know the things that we're involved in. And I'm real blessed. My wife goes with me to almost everything that we do.
She sure does.
And so she's a part of that. Yeah. And so we love our community, and I don't mind letting people know that.
Yeah, and it really shows you. One thing I'll say about you is not only are you on the internet and you're doing the podcast and you're keeping people informed on Facebook, but you are approachable at functions.
Absolutely.
You speak at everything from the Livingston Young Professionals to the Republican Women's Committee. Absolutely. And all these organizations, and make yourself very available. That's important. It matters, and you've been doing it for years. This ain't something you just started yesterday.
No, I've always been very active in my community, very engaged in my community. I can't say it enough. I'm very proud of where I'm from and who I am, and so this has just been something natural. And I never really did Facebook, but whenever I started, I just started documenting it. I'm still the same person I was a long time ago. I still went and did and supported and tried to be involved, and now I just document it more.
Yeah, and it's convenient. It's convenient for the constituent to get an idea of what's going on at the Capitol without necessarily having to go to an event. People get busy. They have jobs and lives, and you respect that, and you make it easy for them.
Yeah, and look, I tell you another thing that's important about that is I do everything I can to promote our parish and all the great things that we're doing, all the great organizations and the groups and the great people and the talented people that we have. So a lot of what I do, I try to promote that. It helps me at the Capitol that people can relate to Livingston Parish.
Yes.
And I want them to know that we have a great thing going on here. And I am proud of where we're from.
Well, amen. And so we're going to get into a little bit of that. You've been here your entire life.
Yes.
You graduated from Denham Springs High School. Go Jackets.
Go Jackets.
And you continued on in your education from Southeastern. You got your degree. And what was that in?
I got a degree in industrial technology. Supervision was my specialty.
Very good.
I started out in mechanical engineering at LSU, and I transferred to Southeastern and finished my degree there.
Very good. Very good. And you continued about life. And at some point, you decided you want to start a family.
Yes.
And so tell us about your family a little bit.
Yeah, so I've always loved kids, and I actually couldn't wait to be a dad. And, I met my wife, Michelle, and, knew pretty much right away that she was the one. It's one of those things you go home and, I was, 24, 25-ish, and I went home, and the first time I met her, and I told my mom, I said, I met a really exceptional young lady tonight, and I told my mom about her, and that was the first time we met, and it was months before we ever went out or anything. But I'm very blessed, and she's a school teacher, teaches at 7th Ward Elementary. Been there for she's finna start her 32nd year, and we've raised 3 phenomenal young ladies. I won the football team, but the good Lord blessed me with a softball player, a homecoming queen, and my youngest showed cows. But 3 daughters, and my oldest is a nurse, my middle one's a teacher, and my youngest one's in her 3rd year of vet school. So we're very, very blessed.
Very blessed. And I just want to touch on this, and I was doing my research, and I want to read this to the people listening, just real quick, giving them an idea of how important your family is to you. when you announced your bid for state Senate, you had put a couple posts up, and I thought it kind of spoke to who you were. And it says, "My family strengthens me. They inspire me to work hard and do my best for Livingston Parish in our great state." And what I love about that post is not only the acknowledgement, but if you look at the picture, folks, he's got 4 beautiful ladies staring at him and just admiring. You can tell that's daddy, right? And that's my husband in Miss Michelle's case. And that really tells me, family's important to you.
Absolutely.
And your backbone. And you're right. I mean, they strengthen us as men. So you go on to mention Miss Michelle specifically, and you talked about her a few minutes ago and how she attends. I see her at almost everything you're at, right. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But you wrote, "Michelle keeps me grounded. She is the greatest supporter and my toughest critic. She is normally by my side at most events. My public service would not be possible without her support." I mean every word of that, don't you?
Absolutely. My personality, I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, and I either give it everything I have or I don't want to be involved.
Amen.
And when as a school board member, I was very engaged and very active, and she couldn't imagine me doing anything that would take up more of my time. Yeah. So when I got ready to run for the House, literally for 6 months, she would not even speak to me about running. Like she's like, "No, I'm not going to. We're not even talking about it." Yeah. And finally, she sat down and she gave it some consideration, and she gave me the approval to do it. And but she goes with me. She loves the community as much as I do.
Yeah.
She probably attends 95 to 98% of everything I do, whether it's here or in Baton Rouge, and it's because she supports me, and it's because she believes in what we're doing, and she wants to be a part as well. And it's a good thing that she does, because if she didn't, we might not see each other too much.
Yeah, so. That's right. I mean, because you stay busy, and look, she's a force. She's a great lady, great personality. She's a teacher here, and it just seems like the perfect fit for you. And how long have y'all been married?
We've been married since 1993, so
wow.
30 years.
Very good.
She's it's been great.
Yes, indeed. And I'll share a little story with you, and because you spoke in that post about keeping you grounded, mm-hmm. and all of those sorts of things. It reminded me of with what I do, and I feel blessed to be able to sit down and talk to people like you, and the success has just been something I never would have foreseen. And at one point, another podcast I'm affiliated with hit #1 in the whole world. Not just the United States, the whole world. So at one point in time, that podcast was being listened to by more people than any podcast in the world. I'm not saying this to brag, y'all, but I'm saying this to make a point. So I go home. I got my chest puffed out a little bit, buddy, Mincey.
Right.
I'm excited. I'm feeling important. I go home, and I had been sending my wife screenshots of this all day long, and I get home, and I said, "So, that's a pretty big deal. #1 in the world."
Right.
And she says, "You done good, and I'm proud of you, but I need you to go check the air and the tires." She was totally serious.
That's right.
Brought me down to reality. But us as men, we need that ground, right. And that's what our wives do for us. So I just love that lady and all she does to support you. Now we're going to get into, and you just brought it up. At some point, you got into your public life, and I love this story, and it involves your wife, and y'all went to a school board meeting.
Right.
So kind of tell us about that. What happened?
Yeah, as all my life, I guess I've been in leadership positions, school, college, professionally. And, I never once wanted to be an elected official. And in fact, just the opposite. My dad was a parish councilman for 16 years. He was a very dedicated, true public servant, tried to help everybody. Amen. It consumed him. And I saw his dedication, and I didn't want that in my life. I had a family I was raising, and I didn't want to have that commitment and do all those things.
Yeah.
And we used to have phone books a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was one line off of his. It was Buddy and Linda and Buddy Jr. and Michelle.
Yeah.
And I used to get half his phone calls. And so it was something that I didn't want this. And my wife went to a school board meeting, It was they had a parish-wide issue going on, a pretty big event, and I went just to stand by her side, just to be with her. And I walked in, and I really saw an opportunity for me to apply my leadership to something I'm very proud of. Very proud of my parish. I'm a product of our school system. I'm very proud of our school system. I walked in as someone who would never run for an office, and I walked out and I told her I'm going to run for the school board. And we did that for 13 years.
Yeah, man, what a run you had. And I want to talk about that for a minute. That was 2006? Seven. Okay.
I started serving in 7.
2007, and you start serving, I think it was within a year, so you became president?
No, it took me, Malcolm Sidley was our board president at that time. I think Keith Martin was at first, and then Malcolm got reelected back, and I just sat back. I was vice president for a long time, but I was just there to do my thing, and when at the end is whenever I became board president.
Yeah, and look, what a run for Livingston Parish Schools during that time.
Yeah, we had, we have a phenomenal school system. Our school system is the economic engine of our parish.
Amen.
There's nothing more important to our state than education, and I don't think there's anything more important to our parish than our school system.
Just became known as the place to go, and that's almost the problem with success sometimes. People have issues with growth in some ways, and I have my thoughts on both ends of that spectrum. But look, when you have a successful school system, they're going to come.
That's right.
They're going to come because they want to be a part of that. That means you're doing something right.
Right.
Your leadership in that role was really something that I followed and I watched, and I said, wow. I started having kids around that point, and I was very, very proud and glad that I didn't have to send them to a private school.
Right, that's right.
And pay. I was like, Livingston. I told people all the time, Livingston Parish public schools are like private schools everywhere else that you pay thousands and thousands of dollars for.
That's right.
So be very proud of that. And you mentioned your dad, Buddy Mincey Sr., who served the parish for as long as I can remember, but I'm sure he had some influence on you in a lot of ways. Kind of tell us about that, how his positive influence was for you.
So my dad, he wasn't perfect, but he worked really hard to serve our community. And there's two things that he taught me growing up. That was either lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then no matter what you do your very best. And I think both of those two concepts are really who I am to my core. Sure. And so he was a very positive influence. And a great dad. I live right next to him. I'm a junior. A lot of people got us confused for all those years. And I lost him in 2017. He's very missed.
Yes.
But he was a true public servant. He really truly tried to help people.
Yeah.
And he was a great example.
Well, you just said something that appeals to me, and I believe there's certain innate traits that people have as they go through life that are a gift from their parents. Yes. or who influence them most. And in your case, it seems like he gave you a heck of a work ethic.
Oh Lord, yes. He raised me to work, physically work.
Yeah.
And I'm to this day I'm still that guy. I mean, I'll fall in and put my work gloves on and go to work with anyone. But that's how I was raised.
Yeah, very good. And so you continue on. You go through the school system, and things are looking up. Very critical times back then for the school system, and something happens. And look, folks, I want you to listen in now. This is important. This is a key moment to me in your career in public service, and it speaks absolute volumes about this guy, and that is 2016 hits. 2016. Now, we love our parish, Buddy Mincey.
Yes.
And number one, it's all underwater.
That's right.
But number two, you got schools you got to think about in the process of this. It can't just be I've got to gut my house or what have you. You've got a huge responsibility here. Yeah. How many schools were destroyed?
So I think we had 19 sites parish-wide that was flooded. in Denham Springs, our districts are set up where I'm directly over the Denham Springs district. I'm one of three, and we've got 14 campuses, and 10 of them were flooded, and 3 of them had to be torn down. And I remember '83 very well. Yeah. I was young. I've been around floods all my life. I've always helped people sandbag. I've moved their possessions, return their possessions, tear their houses, redo them after a flood. So I've always been involved in that, engaged in that, and I remember '83 well. I remember the schools that flooded in '83. So we were trying to, I was on the phone until the very last minute trying to work with our principals to get prepared for this, and where can we put sandbags, and where can we park buses. And we had no idea what was in front of us. But it was our 94% of our parish end result was flooded, and it just decimated us, and it broke my heart. I mean, my house flooded. But I had spent the prior years to that, almost 10 years of facility improvements in the Denham Springs area. We probably had directly over about $65 million in capital improvements, a couple of new campuses in there, but most all that work was lost. We had just expanded Southside Junior High campus to accommodate 1,000 people, 1,000 kids. Which was the max that we wanted to grow that campus to. Yeah. We used it for a week, and it flooded. We had just expanded Southside Elementary to a capacity of 700. We just built a $3 million facility, used it 1 week, and it was underwater. So it was, it's tough to, it's tough to deal with the community loss. It's tough to deal with the personal loss. But I'm going to tell you, the loss to our school system was just very tough on me.
Absolutely.
But our school system is resilient. Our parish is resilient. And I'm really proud of what our efforts were. I think within 20 days, we were back in school.
Yes, you were.
And I think within 108 days, we had 3 modular campuses erected for 3 campuses that had to be completely torn down.
Yeah.
And Joe Murphy was really over that hurricane, that flood recovery. He did a phenomenal job. But this whole parish come together, and that's what we do. And
it
was a great thing to be a part of. And but it was pretty tough to go through.
It really I don't think if you weren't here in the midst of it, anybody could even grasp what it was. And I'll share something real quick because I think it's important to this story, and that is, like everybody else, I flooded, had nearly 6 feet in my house, and 2 beautiful twin girls that were 10 at the time. My son was 12. Mm-hmm. And we had about 15 minutes to get out of that house and get on the Highway 16 right there, Vincent Road. Yeah. And that's what we did. And for 3 days, it was 1,000 people on that road, no way to get out. You're in an island. We eventually, there's a long story to that, but I said, I got to get my family out of here. We get in a vehicle and I take off down Jubin Road, and the good Lord blessed me because there was an 18-wheeler in front of me that made a wake, and I was able to follow that wake. But during that process, both sides of Jubin, those are big ditches in there, and you couldn't see the road from the ditches, and there were people swamped everywhere. There was a lady on top of her car with a baby. Oh, wow. I had to drive right by it because I would have been swamped. Yeah. And my wife starts crying. And I thought she was crying because she was scared, and I'm like, I got this, I do this all the time. And I'm driving down, and she kind of hits me on the arm, and she says, no, look at that. And I looked over, and there's people launching boats, just like you would think they were going in Lake Marpole to save people. And she said, that's our people.
That's right.
That's our people. It wasn't police. It wasn't firemen. It was welders. It was builders. It was just people getting out there and helping people. And it changed me.
Yeah.
Changed me as a person. And so when people ask me about that situation, I always tell them it was the worst time of my life and the best time of my life. It's all at the same time. I could not imagine being in your position, Joe Murphy's position, the school board's position, but I can tell you this: my kids were in a temporary building, so they were going to Southside Junior High. Mm-hmm. They set up T buildings at the Jubin Park, mm-hmm. and that's where they went for their middle school career. And I'd never seen a school board and a school system in general pull off what y'all pulled off. I shout out to every one of you, and I mean that. Folks, what that told me was the leadership ability was there. You're not going to go through tougher things than that, most likely. That was a landmark thing in your life that I thought was very important to put out there, and you learned a lot. But I think, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest things you learned was that there's nothing you can't handle.
That's right. Yeah, and look, just to put it in perspective, our school system had about $100 million in loss. 95% of that was in Denham Springs.
Yeah,
and so it was really just overwhelming. But that's just from a school perspective. But if you look back at the community, our community we was all decimated. I mean, we flooded. We evacuated and slept on the floor of a school. A neighbor took us in, and while we repaired our house. And there's so many stories like that. But it's our parish coming together and working together and overcoming, and that's what we do.
And that's why we're so proud of it, because I don't know many parishes that could have pulled through like we did.
That's right.
And that I believe. Now we'll move on to some more positive things, but before we get beyond your school board career, I do want to say a couple of things that I personally hold in very high regard in our schools here, and you played a big role in both of these things, one of them being the ROTC program.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great – look, y'all, not everybody's got ROTC, and I'll tell you what, I get goosebumps every time that flag comes out at Denham High at them football games, and they're doing nothing but respecting our country, and all of that did not exist 10 years ago.
That's right. That's right.
You helped with that. You were one of the key components of that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I spent 2 years of ROTC at LSU.
Yeah.
And I had an injury at the time, which would prevent me from being able to do anything further to enlist. If I took any more than ROTC, I had to enlist. But our ROTC programs are phenomenal. I mean, I think our military, there's nothing more patriotic. There's no greater civic, ability to serve. And so, I completely respect and admire all of our military. And the ROTC, it was an opportunity to expose some of our kids to those things and get some of those soft skills in their lives before, and then even introduce them and see if they go into the military. But we didn't, Walker had one first.
Yeah.
And I toured their facility and toured and saw. I spoke with the kids and I saw the impact. I saw the group of kids that were being touched. That there was their own little niche that didn't have anything else. And as a Denham Springs board member, I wanted one. And,
sure you did.
Yeah, we went back and we went through the process, and it was going to take 10 years to get one. And I called Congressman Graves, and I said, Congressman, I can't wait 10 years. I need some help. So he helped us get 1 in 3.
Wow.
And it was a phenomenal addition to already a school that provides a lot of services. And so it's a great. I'm very proud of our ROTC, and those kids. They do a phenomenal job of representing our parish. But we've got a lot of them who are moving on and becoming career military. So I'm very proud of that. It's a very great thing in our parish.
Absolutely, and as a father who had all 3 of his kids through that ROTC program, I can tell you, there's nothing better. Yeah. In my opinion, for that STEM Center. Another beautiful part of this school system here in Livingston Parish that is really second to none.
Yeah.
Everything from the production that they do over there. One of my daughters is going into production at LSU, and a big part of that was her early life in the STEM Center.
That's right.
And dealing with that. So phenomenal stuff, folks. With be proud of your parish and especially proud of your school system. So in 2019, you make a decision, and you decide that you want to further your public service, but in a different role.
Right. And
you run for the state rep seat for your district, and crowded competition in that district that year, but you still pulled 45% of the.
Need a winter holiday escape? Forget your cares in Fiji. White sand beaches and scuba diving are calling. Your tropical paradise getaway is just one nonstop Fiji Airways flight away. With round-trip fares starting at $899 from LAX or SFO. Or check out great fares to Australia and New Zealand with seamless connections via Fiji. Book now at FijiAirways.com. From here to happiness, flying direct with Fiji Airways.
Get great deals throughout the store at Safeway. This week at Safeway, get mega packs of bone-in USDA choice beef, New York strip steaks for $5.97 per pound with digital coupon. Limit 2 packages. Plus, Haas avocados are 10 for $10. Member price. Also, this week at Safeway, mix or match 12 packs of 12-ounce cans or 8 packs of 12-ounce bottles of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, 7-Up, or Dr. Pepper are buy 2, get 3 free. Limit 3 free items. Member price plus CRV. Visit Safeway.com or head in store for more deals.
Vote. You almost made it through even with a crowded field without going into a runoff. In the runoff, 77%. Wow.
Yeah,
it's better than 7 out of every 10.
we had we got 45% in a field of 5.
Yes.
And 4 Republicans. And I think it's just a correlation to the service and the all the hard work that we put in. And I really enjoyed. It's very rewarding for me to be a part of the school system. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons I got involved in the legislative process was in Bobby Jindal's second administration. They started their educational reform. Yeah. Now that educational reform was more about posturing him to be the next president, and less about what was best for the future of Louisiana, in my opinion. So as a school board member, after every session, we got our nose busted a little bit and we got our lips blooded a little bit, and it it was tough, and so we had legislators that were voting on our behalf that were not reflecting what was best for Livingston Parish. So I got involved in the legislative process and started reaching out to legislators every session. I asked, I got the school board to have a collective breakfast every year. We bring legislators in and we try to let them, our legislators, Livingston Parish legislators, yes, we wanted them to know what this legislation, how it's impacting us. And so I got very engaged in the legislative process, and that really kind of helped me along to go to the Capitol. Never really had the aspirations to do anything else. I was very reluctant to leave the school system because I was very confident in where I was, and I felt really good about the impact we were having. And but I was approached to run for the House, and I thought it was an opportunity for me to do more. I never really envisioned how much more I would be able to do, because I think we've made a difference, and I think we've made a difference in education. I've been an advocate for protecting Livingston Parish public school systems at the Capitol, and we've been active with everything else. So it's a lot. It's been a lot more rewarding than I thought, because we've had 4 really good years.
Yeah, you really have. And I'll tell you this, you would be hard-pressed, in my opinion, to find anyone at the Capitol that is more, to pardon the pun, but educated on education than you are. Yeah. You just got flat-out experience, and a lot of it, and that's to be respected. Other legislators take note of that. Just the stuff you've been through. You've been through these floods, and I'm a big believer in you lean on people with that knowledge, and you don't reinvent wheels if you don't have to, and so you did. You took off, and you said it earlier. You said, when I do something, I do it 100%, and 100% you did. In 2020, shining star. The awards that you got that year and the pats on the back are vast. One of the ones that stands out to me, of course, being a business podcast primarily and a leadership podcast, is you were the MVP of Lobby, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry scorecard. 100%. Yeah. Can't do better than 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, that speaks volumes to me. As a matter of fact, with Lobby, you've never scored under 90 something. You have 2 All-Star awards with them as well. But that year in particular, you got an A+ rating from the Louisiana Sheriff's Association on their scorecard. That's something to be proud of. I support that association, actually. So very good work being done there. But here's the one I really like: the Conservative Excellence Award. 91% American Conservative Union, which is the ACU Foundation. Scorecard, you were the 2020 conservative voting record in Louisiana's House of Representatives on that scorecard of 91%. And Conservative Excellence Awards are something to be proud of.
Yeah,
and you know what upset. I mean, that's your voting record, right? That's what you're doing, and you know, people that are more ignorant to that might think that, you know, maybe even try to attack that conservative nature that you have. Well, the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, you know, it's easy to call people names.
For sure.
And there's a lot of people who try to call me a rhino because they try to make me into something that I'm not.
Right.
But, you know, to your point, in CPAC, you know, which is the world's largest conservative group, CPAC scores state and federal legislators every year on their conservative voting record. And I didn't even know that they did that, but after, you know, they come out with the scores, they probably scored us on 50 bills on how conservative we voted. Yeah. And in 2020, I had the highest. I was the number one conservative legislator in the Louisiana House of Representatives, and in fact, that year I was number 5 all time in all their records for Louisiana. Wow. So I've, you know, look,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
That's
I represent. I'm conservative.
Sure.
I don't have to go out there and run around telling everybody how conservative I am. It's not a game to say that I'm more conservative than somebody else. I'm conservative, and my record speaks for that. And yes. And so it speaks for that, not in just what I say, but it speaks in that in what my records are. And I'll put my records next to anybody.
Absolutely. And look, that's how you don't listen to what somebody says.
That's right.
Look at their record.
That's right.
Because people can say anything. So I look at records, and you're right. CPAC is the cat's meow when it comes to that. And when they say, you know, you're legit
That's
as
right.
far as I'm concerned. So you also had another award that year, the Patrick Henry Award, which is another favorite of mine, Outstanding Family Advocate Award for votes on life, liberty, and limited government.
That's right.
How about that? 100% on your scorecard again. Yeah. So you had a 2020, a rookie year, I guess you could say, that was like Drew Brees or something. You just killing it out there. And was that was your first year? Were there some things at the Capitol that you were like, wow, man, I didn't know it functioned this way. I didn't know, you know. Is it an adjustment?
Oh, absolutely. I try to be as prepared as I can. I was a good Boy Scout, and I try to be as prepared as I possibly can. Before I became a school board member, I attended school board meetings for an entire year. I didn't miss a meeting. I sat in the back, didn't ask questions. I just observed. I observed the processes, the policies, the dynamics between the board members. So whenever I was elected, I was ready to serve. And I did the same thing going to the Capitol. I went to committee meetings. I went to the floor and watched. And I tried to prepare myself as the best that I could. I've always had great working relationships with the Livingston delegation that preceded me, Roger Spope and Dale Erdy. So we talk shop all the time.
Yeah.
And I really thought when I got elected that I was ready to go up there and ready to serve. But you have no idea what it's like to be a legislator until you get in that chamber, in those rails. And, the 2020 was unique. We started off, I think we was going to have 470-something million in surplus. We were all excited about all the great things we were going to do, teacher pay raises, infrastructure projects. And, within a few weeks, COVID hits and we shut down and we come back and we're $1 billion in the hole. So, 20 and what I think that was pretty remarkable about that year. So, the session, you've got a lot of bills to cover, and we lost a third of it just because of COVID.
Yeah.
And instead of pushing those bills aside or reducing that workload, House leadership said we're going to do the people's work. So we kept our pace, we kept our budgets, and we had some 10, 12-hour debates, with over bills. But it was like drinking from a firewater hose, truly.
Yeah.
And so that's how we were introduced to it.
Wow.
But it was a big transition. COVID made that worse.
Yes.
And but I think we did well.
You did, and you made it through and continued your work there. continued to rack up numerous awards. They hadn't even released the 2023 yet, but I'm sure you're gonna load up there. One of the other ones I liked in 2022, just most recently, Friends of the Industry Award for the Louisiana Nursery and Landscape Association.
Yes. It's
a big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that from landscape guys to grass cutters to you name it, that you stand behind them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so that's a great thing. The Conservation Champion Award for Coastal Conservation, another important thing.
Yeah, our coast is important to Livingston Parish. It's not such a sexy topic for us because we're not on the coast.
Right.
But that coast, protecting that coast is it's the buffer to protect us as a parish when these storms roll in. So I'm very involved in the coastal restoration. This one right here is a CCA award that they give us for our conservation efforts in there. And so I'm very proud of that, and we try to work with any of the industry groups that we can align with.
Absolutely, and we're going to get into, with all these awards and things that you have won, we're going to get into some of the things that led you to that. And we're going to talk about some bills that stood out to me that, I'm out in the community and talking to people and you and I both hear, concerns and things that you've fortunately been working. And first of all, I wanted to bring this up because this really impressed me when I got the actual number, and that was the amount of infrastructure money that you brought in. Infrastructure, you mentioned at the beginning, yes, it's a huge concern. Anytime you have growth, you're going to have infrastructure problems because you don't put up 10-lane roads when you don't have the people there to drive on them. And then by the time you get the people, you're always kind of behind, it seems like. You kind of started off in a tough position because the growth was already there, but the infrastructure wasn't. But you've been working hard. You got a lot of money coming this way, and that's a fight because everybody's fighting for that money.
It's all about competition.
Yes.
It really is. But I've been dealing with growth for 17 years. For 13 years on the school board, I dealt with the growth in our campuses and our facilities, and I was always very proactive and trying to get ahead. And I think whenever I left the school board, we were in a really good position for growth. And so I've always been trying to respond the best I could, and infrastructure is no different. We live in one of the fastest growing parts of the state, and that's because of our school system.
That's right.
And, in infrastructure, we're 30 years behind just because of that growth. Yeah. And when we came in, we started, I wanted to try to figure out strategically what's best for our parish. I didn't want it to be what I thought was best, but I want to see what was best for the parish. So a couple of things that we've done, one, Senator Pope and I have been meeting for the last 2 years with the Mayor of Walker and Mayor of Denham. We're bringing DOTD, we're bringing coastal, the Planning Commission for the Baton Rouge area. And we come in and we've been meeting. We try to meet monthly unless we're in session or holidays and that type of thing. And we're trying to strategically identify what are the solutions to our problems. I've been focusing on my district, which is the Denham Springs and Walker area. But what are those solutions, and then what's the priorities? So we set in the priorities, and then we're going after funding. And we've been very, very active. I think we've made tremendous strides. And whenever I was elected before I was elected in 2019, I think we had $82.1 million in capital outlay total for the parish. Yeah. That's money to be spent that year, but it's also money over the duration of a project. Sure. And in 4 years, we've doubled that. So we're
doubled it.
Doubled it. Yeah, we're at $164.2 million, and it's nothing but because of hard work. We've really been working hard, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, as you should be, and we're very proud of you for doing that. Not an easy task, y'all. They don't just hand you that money and say, "Here's your cut." Like Mincey Jr. No. you gotta work for it.
Yeah, look, so you're competing with 144 legislators for everything, really. Yeah. And I was fortunate to be put on the Ways and Means Committee, which is where the capital outlay bill starts from. And the success at the Capitol is all about relationships, the relationships that you build with your colleagues that you can work together, and it's just work for us. And Senator Pope was on he was on a complementary committee on the Senate side, and we have partnered very well together, and I think we've delivered.
And that's what I like to see is working together.
Absolutely.
Right? So many. not just limited to Livingston Parish, but so many parishes and really throughout the country. If you see a bunch of divide and a bunch of people not willing to work with someone, that's a problem, right? Because their best interests don't line up with the parish.
That's correct,
in my opinion, or a city, or wherever you're at. But you have always been willing to extend and reach out to people and say, hey, let's work together.
Absolutely.
Whether they take that option is up to them, but you just keep on going. You duck your head down, dig your feet in the dirt, and go get after it.
Yeah. So I look for people that I can partner with who want to do what's best for our community, and not self-serving.
Yep.
And they don't have their own personal agendas. And let's work together and move our parish forward. And I try to foster that in every way that I can. And so we've had some success, and we've had some challenges. Yeah. And I think the biggest disadvantage we have as a parish is that we're not all working in the same direction or pulling in the same direction, and it puts us at a disadvantage. Absolutely. When you go to compete for money specifically, and you've got parishes that are working together, and they're on the same playbook, and when you get there and you don't have that, it's just difficult. Yeah. And you do the best you can, yeah. And I think we've been able to overcome that, but we've had to work hard at it.
Sure. And now one of the other concerns, and something you have been working hard on, relates to the I-12 barrier, I guess you could call it, that separates traffic.
Correct.
An issue in 2016, and everybody's seen the picture where it looked like it looked like a dam.
That's right. It was a dam.
Yeah. And so you worked hard on that. HB 46, I believe, is the House bill number for that, but process where, to my understanding, you wanted a plan and a cost to get this rectified.
Yeah, correct. Actually, we started that conversation as soon as I got to the Capitol, and we started in 2020. And I met with Secretary Wilson, the DOTD secretary at the time, and I said, hey, in my opinion, nothing had been done to remedy that dam. And I met with him and said, hey, I'm going to pass legislation, and I'm going to pass legislation to fix that barrier. And I'm here to meet with you to figure out what that option is. What we're going to how do I need to word this bill to fix it? And he said, well, buddy, he said, please don't do that. And I'm like, well, why not? He's like, we don't know what the solution is. So, think about it. We're 4 years past. We're 4 years removed from that flood. That interstate median drastically compounded the flooding on the north side of Denham Springs and Walker. Absolutely. And we don't even have a solution. And I'm like, well, it's a once in a lifetime 1,000-year event. Well, 4 months after that, Houston got hit with 45 inches, and it could have drifted easily on us, and we had a repeat. So it was a priority for me. And we argued about how to fix it and why not to fix it. There were some lawsuits that have been filed. DOTD was reluctant to get involved in the conversation, but I convinced them to do a study, to study that and come back with a cost-effective and practical solution. And so we passed a resolution in 21, gave them 2 years to give us a solution, and they gave us the report in 23. And it was just a waste of time, to be quite honest. It was insulting what the solutions they were. For instance, they wanted us to build a 30-mile stretch of elevated structure for $10 billion. That's not a realistic solution. No. So, this past session, we took it we back to where we started off, and I filed a bill that told DOTD give us a solution. So we're going to try to find out what the solution is, and then we're going to try to go out and get capital outlay to fix it.
Very good, and working hard on that, and staying on top of it, and very important to a lot of people. Something that you were a part of, a bill you sponsored that I was very happy to see get passed, and that was I call it the fentanyl bill. But HB 90, which increased the penalties for these. Look, fentanyl is killing our young people.
Absolutely.
And it's the biggest killer between 18 and 34. Of course, with the crime podcast that I do, we talk about it all the time. It's awful. Mm-hmm. And so you're out there doing something about that. And that's a huge thing. For not only the community, but the whole state.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Let's talk about HB 231.
Earlier we spoke about, being in the military and being one of the most patriotic things you can do. And I've, in the community, I try to do everything I can to honor our veterans. I was a part of Denham Springs becoming the sixth Purple Heart city of the state.
Yes.
Walker became the seventh. I filed a bill this past year at the Capitol to create a Purple Heart Trail at the Capitol, and we did I passed another resolution to do something so Denham can have a Purple Heart Trail. So the main street's working towards that, and then we passed this bill. Secretary Strickland, Colonel Strickland, came to me with the Department of Veterans Affairs and asked me to file this bill. And right now there's a criteria to be buried in our state cemeteries, and it doesn't include our National Guard.
Yeah.
So we basically filed resolutions, a bill that enables the Department of the VA to establish some rules so we can give more veterans the opportunity to be buried in our state cemeteries.
Big stuff. So you're out there and you're supporting the military.
Absolutely.
And these military guys. That's a beautiful thing. Now, HB 103, to me, when I saw that, I was like, we definitely need this. I was with you all the way. And that is, it adds financial literacy as a required course for high school students. Mm-hmm. Smart.
No, it's
teach them.
Yeah, if you go to a gas station or a convenience store and you pay with cash and you try to get your change, you see why. But we've right. So many things have advanced with technology, and we're losing some of those skills. And that's a good piece of legislation that was passed, and I was proud to be able to support it. Yeah,
it's very important. I mean, that's a lifelong lesson.
Yes, that's right.
And it can be the difference for some people. So we talked about those bills, but also some that I think we maybe need to offer some clarification on. And one of those is HB 514, which there's so much misinformation on that bill in particular. And that is where to do with the community diversion project.
Correct.
So kind of what is your goal on that?
I don't think anybody's been more engaged in flood protection for our parish than I have. And I have been working very diligently and very hard at trying to provide better services. The Amite River Basin Commission was formed 42 years ago, and it's the only floodplain in the statutes that exists for a specific floodplain in this Amite River Basin. The Amite River Basin Commission controls it, and they've really have just been ineffective, to be quite honest. The only project that they've done, the only project that they've been focused on, was the co-meet diversion. The co-meet diversion is a great project. It really benefits EBR. We're going to benefit from it some over here in Livingston. But it's the one-hit wonder of the Amite River Basin Commission that's been around for 42 years.
Yeah.
So, let me just tell you, kind of set it up for you.
Sure.
After the 2016 flood, Garrett Graves got $1.2 billion for us to basically prevent another repeat of a flood. Now that one was such a God event that there's no way we could have prevented it. But what measures can we put in place to make another event, better? So, that money was intended for the parishes that was impacted by the 16 flood, which I'd argue we're as impacted as anybody. Yes. But what the governor did, the governor took that 1.2 and he spread it across the state. He set up 8 regions, and those 8 regions would be the bureaucratic levels to basically administer and go after the fundings for those areas. We were put in Region 8. Region 8 is basically from the Mississippi River to the Mississippi line. And so we're in a floodplain management region with 6 other floodplains.
Including East Baton Rouge.
That's correct. Yeah. Whenever there's the basin is the most, we have the greatest history of floods, and we have a structure already in place. So I tried to legislatively make it to where the Amite River Basin was its own region, that we would be another region, so we would be equivalent to the rest of them. And when I got into it, I was going to file a bill. We couldn't do that because nothing existed in statute to set up that. It was all done by the governor's executive order.
Yeah.
So, while I was having these conversations, a lot of my colleagues who've been there for a long time, frustrated with the Amite River Basin, they wanted to dissolve it. They wanted to do away with it. They thought it was ineffective. And so I saw it as a different opportunity for us to improve it. So I passed a resolution, I think 2 years ago, to ask CPRA to study the Amen River Basin and give us a criteria for how we can fix it. And they've done that, and we passed that bill last year. I think it was 486 or 468, and we've completely revamped it. But in that whole process, you know, we're looking at. I'm trying to figure out how can we fund projects. It's all about money.
Sure.
Amen River Basin. I mean, the co-meet diversion was done because Congressman Graves went and got it funded.
Yes.
In that development, trying to get to that point of the funding, you know, locally we collected property taxes in the co-meet impact area. We collected them for 20 years, and that was supposed to meet the matching funds for that diversion project. Well, after the 16 flood, Congressman Graves got it funded. They waived the matching requirement, so there was no matching requirements required. So here I am looking at trying to fund projects, and I find $9.6 million that's restricted, that you can't do anything with it. Nothing can be done. It's for matching funds only.
Yeah.
So I went back to Congressman Graves, and they assured me that the matching fund for that project was taken care of. We were at a shortage at that time, $476 million for that. It was over, and there were some concerns about whether or not that money was going to come in. Congressman Graves and the Corps assured me that we were going to get that funded, and there would be no matching funds required. So we got $9.6 million. Let's free that up and let's provide it for other projects. So I filed a bill that would allow the voters who voted and paid for that tax to rededicate that money to projects inside the area that paid the taxes. It was completely, we didn't set any projects. We didn't put any time. They didn't have to do anything. I just removed the barrier to allow them to go to a vote of the people to decide. And I ran into a buzzsaw. The buzzsaw was some money grab by EBR. East Baton Rouge wanted that $9.6 million for maintenance.
Sure,
and
they did.
They wanted that money. And then, now, let me just tell you this. Contractually, they are obligated to maintain that diversion. And the reason they are is because 85% of that project benefits EBR.
Right.
So we got $9.6 million that we have an opportunity to do more projects in. When I ran into obstacles on the floor, I said, well, you know what? No problem. We're going to let it sit there. We're going to let it reserved. When the co-meet's built, we're going to give the money back to the people. I amended the bill. We're going to do a tax rebate. We're going to give it all back by vote of the people. We're going to let them vote for it. Yeah. And that was defeated.
Wow.
But, you know, so two things. The defeat of that bill prevented projects from potentially being done in Livingston Parish, and it prevented a tax rebate, and it was all for the benefit of East Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and you know, I'll even simplify it a little bit further than that on my end, and that is what essentially happened was Livingston Parish people paid into this fund with the expectation that it was going to be needed. It wasn't needed. So your attempt here when you amended that bill was, okay, well, we'll vote on it. And if the people want their money back, we're going to give them their money back. We're rebating their money back. Rather than do that, of course, East Baton Rouge is on the other side, which in all fairness, they do have to maintain this co-meet diversion canal. But Livingston Parish people paid that money.
Yeah. So, and let me, you know, let's talk about that for a second. You know, the impact of co-meet is not as grandeur as some people want you to think. You know, the co-meet impact area is the area that was taxed to help fund the diversion. That's the area that benefits. The only area in Livingston Parish that's in that co-meet impact area is basically west of 4H Club Road.
Yeah.
It's basically just a floodplain along the Amen River. So, you know, we're going to have other benefits, and, you know, it's going to provide 5 to 7 feet of relief in Baton Rouge. It may only provide 6 inches in Denham Springs. Yeah. And we need every inch we can get. Sure. I'm not taking anything away from it. But my point in all this is that we can't sit back and be content with the one-hit wonder. We've got to have more. And I wanted to do everything that I could to provide opportunities for more funding. And the ironic thing about this was, you know, they also tried to make an argument they needed that $9.6 million for the $476 that was over. But if they needed to use that money, they couldn't touch the money because it was restricted for local matching funds only. If we needed that money to to build on the co-meet, which we were told we were not going to have to worry about. And Congressman Graves just verified that just recently. The federal money come in. There is that matching fund is still restricted. But if we needed it, we couldn't touch it. It would have to wait till next legislative session. Someone would have to pass a bill, just like I tried to free it up by vote of the people.
Yeah.
So, I was trying to be proactive and remove a barrier to allow us to do something. But, some other people had other interests.
It made sense to me that you do that. And that's when you have earmarks and, sometimes you'll have money that's just sitting there. You've got to do something with it. You were trying to do some good there. So, if I may just expand a little Absolutely.
bit on that Louisiana Watershed Initiative. In 2019, Congressman Graves and a lot of the Amite River Basin delegation tried to get LWI, which is Louisiana Watershed Initiative, to give us our own region, and they were not successful. Mm-hmm. In 21, I took it up, and we passed a resolution unanimously for them to give us our own region. We passed one in the House. I got Senator White to do one in the Senate. And then, so legislative intent was for them to give us our own region. Now, even after we did that, LWI refused to do it. We had a bunch of public meetings. We had a bunch of side meetings. And by putting a lot of pressure on them to meet the obligation of the legislative will, we convinced them to give us our own region. So what does that mean to us? So LWI Region 9 became in effect. The Amite River Basin, all the work we did to revitalize the Amite River Basin became effect in February of this year. We were just told this past week that they were giving $100 million to our region, to the Amite River, to Region 9, and that would not have been possible if we hadn't have got our own region. And now we're in a position, put it in perspective, when LWI came out and they had their competitive rounds of funding for that $1.2 billion, Amite River Basin didn't send in the first application, not one application. Because of the legislation that we passed, 486, and the new commission that we had, they vetted over $500 million in projects in the Amite River Basin area this year, and they submitted $85 million in applications in round 2. So the things that, you can't sit back and hang your hat on the one-hit wonder and say, the co-meet's going to save us. It's not. It's going to benefit us, but we have got to do more, and we've got to do more, much more. And I've been actively trying to do that for the last 4 years. And if I may just share this with you, just expand a little bit further.
Please do.
So I'm on the co-meet task force, and last week we got an update on the diversion, on the funding, the sources of it, on the completion of it. They're looking probably a third quarter of 25. Realistically, I think it'll probably slip. But we talked about the direct impacts because of diversion. And they showed us an illustration of a map, and they showed 3 tributaries in EBR that are going to benefit from flash flooding. So they're talking about all the benefits in East Baton Rouge from the flash flooding because of the co-meet diversion. So I raised, hey, I got a question for you. What benefit do we have in Livingston Parish? Are we going to have any flash flood benefits from the co-meet diversion in Livingston Parish? And the answer was no. So we've, as a parish, we've got to expect and demand more than the co-meet diversion, and that's what I've been trying to accomplish.
Love that. And, man, you're passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You care about your parish.
Absolutely.
And I think that's apparent. And let's talk about, we'll just switch gears for just a second. And I want to talk about you were a 2014 graduate, Leadership Livingston. Mm-hmm. Great program.
Yeah.
Man that's lived here his entire life, has been in public service for 17 years. You even probably saw some places maybe you hadn't seen yet
I did.
in the parish.
I
I went through it. I was a 2020 graduate. And another event in my life when I look back that was life-changing for me, because at the end of the day, we had projects. We helped others. What was your project?
Ours, we did kind of a literacy education in our middle schools.
Yeah,
and
very good.
and we rolled it out. So
right up your alley.
Yeah. I was in the second class. The class. I let the first class go to work out the kinks, and we followed it. But that was a phenomenal program for me. And I think everything in life is what you put into it and what you get out of it. You can go through the motions and just coast through life and coast through these type of programs, or you can go through and try to benefit from it. Leadership Livingston was profoundly impactful for me.
Yes.
As a school board member in a yellow jacket, I looked at everything through my purple and gold goggles, and I knew we were different around the parish. But whenever I took Leadership Livingston, I got to see the pros and cons of all the different areas and all the struggles and all the financial shortcomings that they have, and the different philosophies and the different. So I always knew we were different, but it really was the first time I accepted the fact that we were different. So I think Leadership Livingston enabled to me to be a much more accepting and an understanding and trying to, and that's helpful when you're trying to find common ground. It helped me as an elected official. It helped me as a school board member because Marpole is different from Live Oak. Live Oak is different from Walker. So if you take that context and then you expand it across the state, when I became a legislator, now I'm dealing with people all over the state. And if you look at the microcosm of our parish and the differences, now you expand it to the state. So Shreveport is different than Denham Springs.
Absolutely.
And Jefferson Parish is different than Bossier, and they're different than Acadian. And so, for me, it just you have to understand that and accept that, understand that people are they're trying to do what's best for their area, and you just try to find common ground.
Yeah. And
you can't just be closed-minded and be against different ones. You got to try to find solutions. And I think I'm a very solution-oriented person, but Leadership Livingston was very helpful for me.
Yeah, and me too, and a little bit different experience in that you were already giving back. You were already doing public service. For me, what it did was it made me look at myself, and I gave at church, I paid my taxes, I was a good guy. But what was I doing outside of myself for other people? And that's what it opened my eyes to and really, really changed my entire outlook on that. What a great program put together by the Livingston Parish Chamber of Commerce. So they do great work over there with that. And we, both Buddy and I, would both encourage any of y'all to check it out if you're interested. Now,
it is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
You love your parish.
I do.
It's obvious. One of the things that I respect you for more, and there's a lot, look, we covered a lot today that you can look at and you can say, this guy's doing good work. His heart's in the right place. You're a God-fearing man.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what I respect probably just about more than anything is your ability to be able to push aside the noise and just drive forward. There's a lot of, dirty politics out there, for lack of a better term. And y'all, this is Jim Chapman saying this. This is, I can tell you.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, A woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver. I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Your ability to just stick to issues and push beyond that is something to be appreciated. I have a mailbox, right? And I get the junk and the trash is what I refer to it in the mail from Lafayette and places like that. And I'll tell you how ugly this stuff gets because I'm a research guy. I got trash in from somebody trying to trash you, a pack, and it was out of Lafayette. And I started researching it. And you know that exact same mailer, all they did was change the name and send it to about 10 different legislators. All they did was change the top name. They weren't directing that towards one person.
That's right.
That is typically what you'll get in those situations. And so you've had a lot of opportunity here to I admire your ability to keep you cool. Let's just say that because it takes a lot, but it takes someone that's confident in what they're doing and pushing forward. And if people are engaging in dirty politics and trying to run off somebody else's record instead of their own, that's a problem. Get your own information on people. Make sure as a voter you're educated and you're not relying on the opinions or thought processes of others. And hopefully that's what you get out of what we're doing today and sitting down and talking and hearing facts. And one thing I love about the way that you communicate on social media is you always sign it off with something, which is love my Livingston. Love that.
Yes.
Great. I don't know if you call that a hashtag or what, but it speaks volumes. So, I mean, I think it's perfectly fitting for you.
And I'm going to tell you, I've always loved my parish, and I mean that. And I'm going to tell you a story that I haven't shared publicly many times. But whenever I was a freshman at LSU, I'm attending a geology 2001 class, and my professor was a Professor Davison, extremely charismatic, wore a bow tie. He was a phenomenal professor, probably my best professor that I ever had in college.
Yeah,
because he took a really boring subject and made it fun.
Yes,
and so I walk in first day of class, and it's a freshman class back then at LSU was probably 400 students. And he walks in and he says, who's from an exciting country here? Who's from an exciting place? So this guy raises his hand, I'm from Russia. And this one raises up, from Australia. Argentina, it just goes around.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And he runs through about 7 or 8 countries, and then he's finally, he run out, and he's like, somebody else tell me where you're from. That's an exciting place that everybody wants to live. And I'm 5 rows back, and I raised my hand up. He said, yes, sir. I said, Denham Springs, Louisiana. And so everybody laughed. They were laughing at me, but I was sincere.
You're serious.
I'm proud of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud of the school system that I'm a product of. You won't find anybody that's more proud of Livingston Parish than I am. And I do absolutely everything I can to promote it. At the Capitol, our Main Street, with our tourism board, it doesn't matter. With all the individual groups, all the things that we do as a parish, I try to promote it. But anything that I do on social media that relates to Livingston Parish, I close it with saying, love my Livingston.
Yeah.
And because I love my Livingston.
You really do.
And it's genuine. It's from the heart.
Yeah. And you weren't always a public official. You have quite the background, and you contracting work and things of that nature.
Yeah, so before, I had 35 years in the petrochemical industry. I was a quality control director. I was a mechanical superintendent. I was a safety director.
Yeah.
For all those years, you develop skills as a contractor, accountability, being resourceful, meeting schedules, dealing with people. All those soft skills as a contractor professionally helped me be an elected official.
Yeah.
So whenever I became a school board member, I looked at it from a business perspective and from a practical perspective, from a functionality, trying to get things accomplished. And 13 years of doing that and enabled me to take those lessons into the Capitol. And I've done that as a state rep, and now I'm ready to go to the Senate and do the same.
Yeah, and we haven't talked a whole lot about the Senate because we're covering. Look, y'all, that's how busy this guy's been, and so at some point you decide that you're going to move on to the other side of the house, as it were, and go to the Senate side. Hard decision for you, or just a natural transition?
I was really comfortable at the House. I think we've been very, very successful legislatively. We've been extremely successful bringing projects home. I was comfortable in my skin there. I would have been content with staying at the House. But with Senator Pope retiring after 54 years of public service, and we want to recognize him and thank him for that.
Absolutely.
But after
54 years.
54 years.
Wow.
He was my junior high principal a long time ago.
How about that?
But after with him leaving, it left a leadership position open that could possibly have more influence.
Yeah.
And so it was an opportunity for me. I think I would have been in a good leadership position if I stayed at the House, but it gave me an opportunity to expand my impact and my influence and try to bring more to our parish. So it was easy for me to make that transition, and I think just as important for me to making that transition to fill that spot, but it's equally important on the concern about who could fill that spot.
Right.
So it's one of the same. I've had a great relationship with Senator Pope, and I think the benefits that we've brought to the parish are a direct correlation of that. And it concerns me on who that person would be, and it was just an opportunity for me to be that person.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, very good, and a natural transition for you, I would think. And then you have a mentor there with Senator Pope that has been in that role and is always been willing to help you along in that process. So what area does that Senate district cover?
So right now I represent primarily all of Denham Springs and the city limits of Walker. This Senate district is basically going to be all of Denham, all of Watson, all of Walker, all of the town of Livingston, all of Coyell, all of Satsuma. So it's basically going to go run from the Amite River to the Tickfall River, from St. Helena down to pretty much where the old Parkers used to be, where the Port Vincent's Village is right now. And so where 447 and 16 meet, that's pretty much the southern border. It goes into a little bit of Port Vincent. It's a great district. It's all Livingston Parish. It controls. It contains a good bit of the rural parts of the parish. And I'm a rural guy. Look, I'm a country boy. I've raised cows and worked hard all my life. And we got a lot of good people out there, and I'm looking forward to expanding, my jurisdiction and trying to bring things to other parts of the parish. Yeah,
and you're a big supporter of 4-H,
absolutely,
and participated in 4-H.
Yeah, our 4-H and FFA programs are phenomenal, and they made me who I am. All those leadership and all those skill sets that you get. We've got so many great opportunities for our kids nowadays, but I think our 4-H and FFA programs are still phenomenal, and they're great building blocks for a foundation, and they were most helpful for me. And my daughter, too. My daughter went through that. She's in vet school now, so, they were beneficial for her,
Vet school?
Yeah, she's in her third year of vet school.
Daddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Very good, and so good luck to her.
Yeah.
And if you go on your Facebook, you'll actually run into you're mending fences out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been building fences and fixing fences all my life. As long as I could remember being able to pack a hammer, my dad probably had me out there doing that. So
no doubt about it.
And I enjoy that. That's really I enjoy physical work. I mean, that's just how I was raised.
It keeps us young.
Yes,
Buddy Mincey Jr. I'm convinced of it.
Yes.
And I had a neighbor. I cut my grass still with a push mower. And I got pretty big lots, and I live in an older neighborhood, and the lots are rather large. And he says, "Man, you're about a couple feet away from needing a riding lawnmower for that." I said, "Oh no!" I told my wife a long time ago that the second that I get a riding lawnmower to cut this grass, I'm too old. So I refuse to do it. I suffer. But it is what it is. I do want to mention for a second. And I know we've talked about it throughout this podcast that you do have a Facebook, and to follow that But I'm going to also link that, y'all, in the description of this podcast. So if you're driving or something like that, don't worry about it. When you get home, it's going to be linked right there. You can click on it, bring you right to it. Buddy Mincey Jr. keeps us updated frequently. So so you can always stay updated. I know you're at every public event, pretty much there is. So if you want to reach out, don't be shy. He wants to talk to you, and you got questions for him, he wants to answer them, and definitely do that. And one thing we do on this show that's fun, and we always try to kind of wrap shows with this, is we do a little what we call fun facts. And I just ask general fun questions, and it kind of enables people to get to know you a little better. And so I'm going to ask you 3 fun questions. One of them is your dream job when you were 12 years old.
My dream job when I was 12 years old was to be a veterinarian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I really wanted to be a vet.
Yeah.
I've always been, I'm an outside guy. I've always dealt with animals, raised horses, raised cows. I think I was meant to be a vet.
Yeah.
But whenever I got ready to go to college, my dad sensed a transition in our society. He saw the large animals going away, and he convinced me, son, he said, you can't make a living around here as a large animal vet.
Yeah.
And I think he was right. But what he did not see, neither one of us saw, was the amount of money that people spend for small animals now, of a cat or a dog. And, so I think I missed my calling to become a veterinarian. My daughter is pursuing that right now, so I'm excited about that.
There you go.
But that's what I wanted to be. But my career, I wouldn't take anything for the career that I've had.
Wow, awesome. And mine was a weatherman of all things.
Oh, wow.
People would never. I'm like, I wanted to be a weatherman.
Right.
I don't know what it was. Hurricanes always intrigue me, and storms,
right.
until
they get here.
Yeah, until they get here. Then I'm like, all right. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Wow, that's pretty easy, actually. I'd like to go to Yellowstone.
Yeah,
me too.
I've never been, but I'd love to go.
I've been out of country once.
Yeah,
and I don't know that I'll go out of country again. There's too many great places to go in the States.
Amen.
But I've always wanted to. I'm an avid hunter. I love to hunt, and I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
And it would probably be up there at the Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah, I got that same goal. I did go to Alaska, which is beautiful.
Alaska would be number 2.
Yeah,
Alaska would be number 2.
Beautiful. Eagles fly around like crows around.
Yeah,
just so they're everywhere. If you had any superpower, what would you pick?
Oh, wow! No, that's pretty.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. So I'll tell you, if I had a superpower, it would be to slow time down.
Oh yeah.
Time goes by so fast.
Amen.
And we in the blink of an eye. And when you go back and you reflect, I was very fortunate. Because of my career at the time as a safety director in the company that I worked for, I got to do everything with my kids.
Yeah.
Didn't miss hardly any events, and I was very close with my daughters.
Yeah.
They probably they were and still are as close with me as they are their mom.
Sure.
And but my little girls have grown up.
Yeah.
And I wish I could, if I could do anything, I would slow down time. Spend some more time with my dad, my mom, and I've hunting all these years, and all the guys, the older generation that are no longer with us, the good times we had back in the day before life becomes so busy, and we had so many opportunities. I would slow down time.
Yeah,
I really would.
Man, that's a great answer. Yeah. And I'm with you 100%. And the sad thing about it is you don't realize it when you're in the moment. You realize it when you look back. And with my kids, I can relate to that too. And one thing I always did was I was the guy that brought them to school. Right. I told my wife that's my deal because I wanted to have that 15 minutes every day with them. And from the time they were in kindergarten to the time they graduated from high school, I drove them to school every day. And it's blink of an eye, man. They go from there to, adults and so, and look, we get, in life, we get very busy, right? Yes.
And we get consumed by the busyness. And, there was a point in my life, I was coaching ball, I was in school board and very engaged in the community. And I felt a sense that I needed to slow down.
Yeah.
And in fact, I told my wife, I just feel like I need to just stop and just slow down. And about 4 months later, I had cancer. Wow. And I had my 5-year prognosis was 5%. I had a 5% chance of living. And so, I went through 6 months of chemo. I had an ileostomy for 6 months. And, when you're told you got 5% chance of living and you got 3 young daughters and a young wife, it changes your perspective. And the first couple of days for me, I think is a normal, whoa, why me, kind of deal. Sure. But then, I set my family down and I said, what an opportunity for me to be a better person, to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better son, to be a better school board member, just to be a better human. So God slowed me down a little bit at one time in my life, and it changes your perspective. And but it didn't take long. We got busy again, and we're busy now. Yeah, but I always reflect back on that, and I think we all need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, amen. And I'm gonna tell you to the listeners out there, and I didn't expect that last story. I didn't know anything about that. And you're a tough man, buddy Mincey Jr. You're a tough man, and we need that. We need people like you fighting the good fight up there at the Capitol.
Yeah, and look, I just there's a lot of people out there struggling. Cancer is tough.
Yes.
And my doctors told me that I would be in the hospital for 2 weeks and out of work for 2 months. But my doctor also told me to get up and walk as much as I could. And I had 4 bottle carts that I carried with me when the first time I had sat there after a 7.5-hour surgery. They asked me to walk to the door and back. And I got up and I said, can I walk more? And they said, you can walk as long as you want. And the hallway was 50 yards long. I walked it 20 times. I walked 1,000 yards the first time out of bed. I did it 5 times a day, no matter what I felt like. I was home in 4 days, and I was back to working deer hunting in 2 weeks. And and it was by the grace of God, Amen. But a lot of determination. And I had a lot to live for. I had a young family, and those events, they change you.
Yes.
They give you a different perspective, and I think it's helpful because in life you reflect back on those moments and the lessons that you learn. So it's a part of my story. It's who I am. I am a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
But I hit cancer like everything else. With the grace of God and just with my head forward and just work hard at it. Man,
I love that. And that's who Buddy Mincey is. For those of you that I hope you got that out of today's podcast. These are human beings, these people that are representing us, and it's very important. It was very important to me before we did this podcast that people could see who this guy was, where a driven, good person.
Well, thank you.
And I've always known you to be a good person. Your wife, great people. Your kids, great people. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done in your public service for Livingston Parish. It truly is something that is selfless. Mm-hmm. And just keep fighting, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And for everybody else, thank you for listening. You support us more than I could have ever expected. If you like what you heard, share it. We need to get the word out there on our public officials and let people see what they're doing good for Livingston Parish. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Every day, my employees get scam emails. I wanted to protect my business and clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got 4 simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. Learn more at CISA.gov/Secure Our World.